how long have you been doing stand-up, Bill? You're like probably the go-to guy
Man.
in Pittsburgh.
I've probably been doing it like 16 years,
Okay.
maybe 15.
All right. And when you started, I think you have even like Jeff Conkle beat then.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So
I had been doing it for at least a year or two when Jeff got started.
so when you started, there were not a lot of places, I'm sure, to perform.
No.
And you kind of have to take whatever you can get, you
Yep.
know, and especially when you're those first few years in, you're so hungry for stage time that you're almost not willing to say no to anything,
Right.
and that could be a problem. You know, some people think it's just like a matter of, oh, did they not have good sound or lighting? But you have a situation where the audience didn't have an understanding of your material in
Yeah,
some
well,
sense.
back up just 1 second. Okay, so when I first started, there was for real no rooms. Like now, you can have a room and some people, you can have a shitty room or people can be like, that room's not great, or that nobody really comes to that mic. But there wasn't comedy open mics. So there were these dudes that called themselves the Sofa Kings, and they would do open mics that were like poetry
Oh my
and
God.
and songwriters. And so somebody would be up there with like a ukulele and be singing about like an old town squire, and then I would come up and do dick jokes, and I'd spend the first 5 minutes unwinding the mic from one of those guitar mics where it
Right.
like bends in the middle and comes up close to you. And so it was an absolute disaster. But then, as you do it, you start to do like fire halls, which, you know, are a different kind of crazy. But then you start honing your craft a little bit and casting a wider net with your material, because when you first start, you're just basically throwing nothing but fastballs, and it's either going to go great for you or you bomb horribly. And when you start bombing, you don't have a change up, you don't have a
Right.
slider, you don't have any knuckleballs, you have
Yeah.
one pitch.
Yeah. Until they take you off the mound. I was like, this is
Right.
all I got.
And I mean, I've seen comics take themselves off the mound, which is the funniest shit that you could possibly see. Like, just somebody's like, you know what, I'm gonna wrap this up, and it's like, oh my god, you just did 7 minutes, you're supposed to do a half hour. uh,
Right.
but so one time we did a gig, and I think it was a talent network gig, and
Which
they
is
booked
like, for people, yeah, that don't know, they book some corporate
some
things.
corporate shows. Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know where you're getting, though.
I did a Christmas party for Comcast at the Melting Pot in Station Square
Oh
with
my God.
with no microphone, and I just stepped in and closed the doors behind me while people were eating fondue, and told my material with just no mic at all, and it was real weird. They booked me for at a lesbian bar where there was one of the bartender was a lesbian, and she was dating the owner, and they threw the owner a 50th birthday party with all lesbians, and the opener for the show was a drag king who was going around and singing songs, and they had me up against a sheer curtain at the end of a long hallway that they were shooting lasers on, and it was right in front of the bathroom. So every time somebody came out of the bathroom, I had to just be like, "Oh, hold on a second, go ahead," and then resume my material. So the Talent Network has booked me on definitely some interesting gigs,
Oh my God, man.
and so they booked me. I can't remember the name of the college. You'd have to ask Terry Jones. He was the comic who I brought along with me, and it was somewhere in like the mountains of West Virginia. And we walk in, and colleges are a nightmare under pristine conditions to do stand up. It's just it's not fun. But you have these, I guess, activity directors, or I don't know what their actual names are, but Um,
They're like they're basically students that have to come up with. Usually, it's students that have to come up with things for the other students to do,
yes.
and they don't necessarily have a sense of
No.
like what is going on.
No.
They don't really know. Like I think these kids would like they're just trying to figure out how to spend 10 grand in a
Yes.
semester.
Yes. They have a budget and they just start spending it. And if there's a pulse, their finger is nowhere near it. So we get up to this college and we walk in and I'm like, oh my God, is this a joke? It's in like a cafeteria. There is absolutely nobody, seriously, like no one in there. And the guy is like, yeah, I don't know. And I said, well, when is the show going to start? And he goes, well, we can start anytime you want. And I'm like, well, is there going to be an audience? And he's like, I can walk down the hall and there's some kids playing basketball in the gym and see if they want to come in and see the show. And so I look at Terry and I'm like, I'm so sorry, man. And there's guys playing like foosball and they're kind of half interested. So we start walking around this whole building and just trying to round as many people up as we can. So they all sit down. We start the show. I mean, Terry, it's not, he's not bombing, but it's like it's not going well.
Because
And
nobody really wants to be there.
nobody wants to be there. And then I get up there
Oh no.
and like 15 minutes into my set, I notice that every time I swear, they're laughing, but that is it. Then it's complete silence. So like it's that stutter step of that pump fake of, okay, I got them, to total dead silence.
You're
again.
like, oh, they like dirty. They just like dirty
yeah,
material. Yeah.
so you guys like the dirty stuff, huh? No response.
Right.
So I'm like, what? Seriously, guys, what is going on? They're like, oh, I'm sorry, none of the audience really speaks English. I'm like, what? How? This is 40 minutes into the show, and we're just finding this out. How the hell does nobody in here speak English?
Like, whose idea was it to get these kids to come in?
Dude,
Like,
I was just, it was so bad while it was going on. And the only person that really knows how bad it was is Terry Jones. Cause it doesn't, like, no pun intended, it doesn't translate. Like when you tell somebody else, you go, oh
right.
yeah, we're like the whole audience didn't speak English. Like, I think that's what I've had, that nightmare. But the only difference between that gig and my nightmare was, in my nightmare, I wasn't wearing pants, but that was it. Pants wouldn't have made that much more of a difference.
No, if anything, a lack of pants might have helped.
Oh yeah,
because it would have been more slapstick. Like
right.
He's like the Three Stooges. Oh my God,
that was terrible. I mean, I think a lot of the gigs when you first start out, I look at those as it's either going to be fun or it's going to be a good story.
Right.
And if it's a great gig, it's both.
Yeah. And I was just talking to a buddy of mine about this, and we were saying that the issue is that when you're new, you don't have the foresight to be like, this will be a good story one day.
Right.
Because when you're like a year in and then you bomb, you're supposed to do like 20 and you do 7 at like some banquet dinner.
Yeah.
You don't realize that like, oh, this will be funny to tell my other comedian friends. You're just in your car. You're like, I think I have to get a new job. Like,
right.
I don't know if I can ever show my face in this city again.
Oh, that just reminded me of this other gig that I did, another Talent Network gig. So I did it with, do you know David Michael?
Yes.
The King?
Okay, the King.
So I'm opening for the King. It is at Slippery Rock at halftime of a faculty student charity basketball game.
Oh my God.
At center court. Okay. There's hardly anybody there, but there's probably like maybe 50, 60 people there. And we walk in and I'm like, where are we going to perform? There is like a boom box that is like our speaker. And David K looks at me. David K's in a suit. Okay. And he looks at me and he goes, buddy, buddy, do as much time as you possibly can. And so I'm like, all right, I'm still pretty new. So I'm
Right.
like, I do 25. I had 17 minutes of material max.
Yeah.
I stretched it and did 25 and it didn't go well. And I'm like, well, if you guys love me, you're really going to love the headliner tonight. His name is David Michael, clubs and colleges, give him the good introduction. And he comes up and he goes, all right, how's everybody doing? Is anybody here married? And everybody, like almost in unison, is like, nah. And he's like, and he's like, you guys drinking? Who's drinking in here? It's a dry campus. So they're
Right.
like, no one is drinking.
Right.
So I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. I go down the hall and like, I'm just go to the bathroom. And as I'm walking back up, he's like, all right, guys, that's my time. Thank you. I'm like, oh my God, what did you just do? He comes off stage. He's like, buddy, they were throwing gang signs up at me. We got to get out of here. And I'm like, what? And so we like run down the hallway, hop in his car, peel out. And that's how we left that gig. And the people that paid Talent Network were obviously pretty upset because the headliner did like 10 minutes. But that's another one of those gigs where it's like, did that really even happen?
Right. In the moment,
crazy.
you're like, how am I going to get out of this? And then you have that drive home and you're like, what do I do? Do I call somebody? There's no one to call.
There's no one to call.
There's no HR. There's no union.
No.
You can't file a claim.
I mean, at that point too, you start doing math like in your head where you go, all right, I don't even care if I get paid for this gig. I don't want to, like, I don't care about these people here. I don't care about what they think of me. Whoever booked this, I don't want to be in trouble with them because
Right.
that's my only like money source at this point.
Right. You're like, all right, so if I lose this gig, obviously I'm not getting paid and I lost the money on gas. And let's just say they don't book me for a month. Okay, for a month, I could probably go without any money.
Yeah.
And you're like justifying all of the hell that's going to be brought down on you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. Now, in both of those situations, when you're leaving the show, like for me, that's where if I don't call like another comedian to talk about it with, you're just left to your own devices. So when you're leaving the show, are you freaking out? Like, what am I going to do? Is this the end for me? Or are you kind of realizing these were not set up well at all?
Well, like a lot of those gigs, I was with at least one other comic. So we just laughed about it the whole way home.
Which is great.
And then once you're home, like, if you didn't get your fill, you call another comic and somebody who's sort of like similar, has been in the game for similar amount of time as you, so you can relate to be like, oh yeah, I had a show tonight and oh my God, it was a disaster. We did the Days Inn in Butler and there was like which is a real gig. Billy Elmer used to host this show at the Days Inn in Butler, and before the show would start, the security guard would get up and sing a song, and it was just like, what is this? Is this real? Like, are we actually? Is this a real life gig that I'm doing? And there wasn't even a spotlight. It was like dance hall lights.
Oh my God! And yeah, you're like, no, but for real, what is where are we gonna do the show? I'm like, we're just gonna do it right here. But no, come on, guys. Where's
going to be the show? Oh, on the parquet dance floor? All right, fine. All right, we'll do it out there then.
Oh my God. Billy Elmer booked me on one of the worst gigs I ever did. I had to drive to like Sharon, Pennsylvania to do a bar next to the original Quaker Steak and Lube.
Of course.
And it was me and him and his son who was selling his merch. And there were 3 people in the audience. And they were playing pool, and they were so upset that like we were there, and they were like, Billy was just like, do your time, just do your time,
just go up,
go up there,
time.
And we gave him a full show, like an hour and 20 minutes, and I remember leaving there thinking like, I don't think this is everything I thought it would be. The whole comedy thing, I was like, I think I had something different in mind, and this is not what I expected.
because in the beginning you're trying to piece together a calendar so the time in between gigs is a lot wider, like it's a
Right.
lot longer. So when you bomb, you have to sit in it for weeks,
Right. Yeah.
sometimes a month, and
Right.
that's like all you have to go on. So it creates this absolute terror of those kind of gigs, and actually it ends up being sort of a forged in the fire kind of thing. Iron sharpens iron.
Right.
Like you go into those gigs, and if you have enough of them, you are numb to any pain at all. Like now that I've done stand up for this long, I've traveled the country, I've been even fortunate enough to go like around the world and perform. It is difficult in absolutely perfect conditions when there is an audience and good sound and lighting. When everything is wrong in the beginning, like, I mean, we've been to places where they had a lavalier mic and a huge like Sega Genesis cartridge for a battery pack that they somehow taped onto a racquetball handle, and that was our mic. Like we were doing the old Price is Right show. Like it was,
Oh my
and it's
God.
coming out of the speakers in the ceiling at an
Right.
old, you know, uh, Eagles club or something. It's just, I mean, when the chips are stacked that much against you, you know, you really separate the men from the boys, because if you don't absolutely want to do this, you're gonna
Oh.
quit on along the way, no
there
doubt.
there are so much easier hobbies and more fulfilling
Right.
hobbies that, like, that's why it's hard when you talk to somebody that isn't in it for the long haul. They're like, yeah, like I'm an orthodontist, but I just need to get out of the house. I'm like,
Right.
hey man, you could do like anything else. There's like pickup sports leagues that
Right.
meet every Thursday. I mean, this is the worst way to spend your free time. But the difference, the what I like about all those shows is that you didn't necessarily know what you're getting into,
No.
and you were booked by somebody else.
Yes.
Now, I know that you also have a show that
Mm.
maybe you booked yourself for that didn't go well. And there
Oh
was a
my
lot of
God.
hype. There was a
Yeah.
lot of hype around it.
So I did like the improv let me do a couple of my own shows. And this is back when Facebook was just starting to get going, like starting to be a real tool for a comedian to put out his stuff. I remember Dane Cook was the first person to do it on MySpace. He had like
Yeah.
1 million friends. And so I had like maybe 2,000 friends at that time on Facebook. And I individually messaged like 900 people about a show that I was doing at the Improv. First one I do sells out, and I'm like, all right, I got to top it somehow.
Right.
So I come up with this idea. In college, I had done a one-man show, and I'm like, I'm gonna wow them. I'm doing like an intro video. There's gonna be different characters that I'm gonna do.
Right.
Set changes. There's a music number where a whole bunch of people come up on stage with me. So I'm doing it with my buddy who was a sound guy at the Improv at the time. And first of all, the Improv is completely sold out. The show is called How Things Got to Be This Way. And I actually found a poster of it. Okay, so this is so so you can see, like, this is it's the evolution, and it's the
Oh
evolutionary chart with me as every character, right?
my God.
So the sound guy was mixing the master. Like there was like 70 sound cues throughout the entire night. He was 45 minutes late for
To
the
the
show.
show?
For the show. So we couldn't start the show. So everybody is sweating. My parents are texting me. I'm in the green room. I have a hockey bag of
Oh
shit
my God.
for the show, like all the different costumes and everything. And so right off the bat, I did an intro video. It was supposed to be 4 minutes tops. He was like, dude, I tried to edit it down. It just didn't work. The intro video for my show was 11 and a half minutes. And at the end of it, I come out to Elton John's Rocket Man, and I made a cardboard rocket, and I slapped it to the side of a wheelchair. So I come on the stage
No.
in an astronaut's outfit in a cardboard rocket, so that only the audience can only see one side of me. And it was when I say a disaster, like some people are like, oh dude, I went big. Like nobody fell farther from me. I actually fell from outer space and landed.
You were in orbit. Yeah, you were.
And it was so bad, like the sound cues were fucking up, and we had like all these videos that were supposed to play on the big screen, and at some point we lost the remote for the screen. So the sound guy, who's Jeremiah, goes he goes, hey guys, we're gonna have to take an intermission, smoke break, right? And I'm like, I run to the back, I'm like, no dude, we can't take a break. Where's the fucking remote? So now I'm like, aside from the show starting 45 minutes late and having an 11.5-minute intro video,
right,
multiple sound cue mistakes, now we're taking an intermission.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so bad. I walked half the room. So when everybody went out for the smoke break, only half the room came back. And
oh my God.
And so we finally found the remote, and we do there's a video of me and my brother rapping when we're like 10 years old that we wanted to play, but he forgot to mix the sound in, so there was no sound. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So literally it's every single thing on the show. Not one thing went right. I ended the show by having all of the characters that I had like different comics dress as those characters and all come up on stage. And I thought, like, I'm going to do what the poster is on stage, and then the lights are going to go to black and everybody's going to be like, this dude's a genius. He needs his own one-man show on Broadway. And it was a total fucking disaster. Half the people came out and didn't even have the outfits because they couldn't like either fit them or, couldn't find the right stuff. So it was, it was so painful to me for this show. So after the show, I walk off stage to, like, when I say mild applause, it's not like I've never heard an applause this sad.
Oh no.
It was really, really bad. Like, honestly, I don't know how I'm still doing comedy. It was that bad. And I'm in the green room afterwards. Nobody's in there. My dad comes in and I have like a towel over my head, like, a basketball player that just got shit on for 4 quarters.
Right.
And my dad closes the door behind him, and I'm like, well, Dad, I gave him my all. And I'm thinking he's going to give me like this pep talk, like, man, son, that took like some serious balls, and, you just got to swing for the fences, and that's what you did tonight, and you're not in control. He was like, what the fuck was that? That was so embarrassing. How low is your self-esteem? How much do you think you have to do to get people to like you? He goes, I can't believe I invited people from my work to come see this horse shit that you just did.
Oh no.
That was a 2-hour and 45-minute comedy show with like 4 laughs. And I'm like, Dad, if you were trying to cheer me up, like, this isn't working. He's like, cheer you up? I'm pissed. He's like, the whole family's pissed.
We like, drove down here. We had to park. We had a 2-item minimum for that.
This is basically our family Christmas party. You totally ruined Christmas. So, like, if that wasn't bad enough, then I had to clean it up. I had to clean all of it up. And it's just loading shit into a hockey bag for 15 minutes. Like, I would find a shoe, and then I would, I'd find a wig, and then I'd find like a mustache, and a pair of like glasses.
And each thing is just reminding
and
you
each
of
thing is
how
like,
bad it went.
shit. Yeah, a neck
You're-
brace.
You're probably like, as I'm like, if this goes well, I'm gonna be packing this stuff up. Like, man, that was great. The shoe phone thing, hilarious. The mustache with the glasses, that killed. And instead, you're just like, no.
So I get out to the car, I go home, and for a full 24 hours, I did not leave my bed. Like I was
Oh my
under the
God.
covers, and I'll never forget it because the following day my niece was born. And so this is like 12 or 13 years ago. And from that point to this point, I've never done another character, made another video, like done an impression. Like I stripped all the horse shit away because it was true. Like I let my creative, like what I had in my head, this madness run wild, and thought I could do all these things like I'm some multimedia superstar, and shit the bed hard. I would say that I don't care who's doing this. I don't care how long they've been doing this. Nobody shit the bed that completely. And I'll put that story up against anybody's. Like I shit every single corner of the bed.
Just all over the bed.
Covered.
They're like, well, maybe we can put a towel down. Nope.
Nightmare
covered.
on Elm Street where Johnny Depp gets sucked in and except shit. I got sucked in and then shit geyser came out. There was shit on the ceiling. My room is brown now. Forget the bed. All my clothes. There's shit in every drawer. There's shit on the mirror. The whole room is shit.
Oh my God.
That's how bad it was.
So 24 hours might be also the longest, like somebody, like, you know, it takes you a few days to get back on stage, maybe to recover from a bomb, but to be totally isolated and bedridden for 24 hours, I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
I couldn't talk, dude. It was because what's anybody going to say?
Right, yeah.
I can't say anything to make myself feel better. Nobody that was there could tell me anything. Like that was Evel Knievel jumping the fountains at Caesars, where he did a 15 cartwheels over the course of 90 feet of concrete, broke every single bone in his body. Like that was that for me, but comedically.
Right. And also this idea, the best part about it is that the other show had gone so well.
Oh yeah.
So you now think, and every comic is like this, where you're like, all right, it's time for me to shine. Like I have earned this. It's time to really take it up a notch and give these people a show.
Right.
And you just build yourself up so high on a house of like playing cards and popsicle sticks.
Right.
There's no foundation. So when it comes down and you're standing on top, it was just like, I don't know if he's going to be okay after this.
No. And honestly, like I wasn't for a real long time. And everybody was like, dude, I respect that, man. Like you really, really took a chance. And I'm like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like I had people following me around with cameras leading up to the show. And
like a documentary?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you were like all in. So like everyone's hyping you up and you're just feeding the fire.
Yeah. So the first show that I did an intro video for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really simple. It was, I woke up late and I got to get to the Improv. So now I'm just trying to get to the Improv by any means necessary. So my car won't start. So I put on rollerblades and I'm out on Grandview and I'm like doing the Back to the Future. I'm on some car and then I go down the incline and I'm on a boat. And then all of a sudden I get on the bus and then I appear at the waterfront in front of the movie theater. And then it's just the last like 35, 40 seconds are me running slow motion towards the improv, and then I look up and see my name and then walk in with, you know, like I was dressed in the video, and
Right.
everybody was like, "Oh, that was so awesome," you know, and then I just did 40 minutes of stand up. And so it went really well, and I was like, well, they're probably looking for more from me.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm Lin-Manuel, you know, like I'm going to do Hamilton or some
Right.
shit. And
I
it
like that
just
you were
failed.
like, they're not looking for more stand up. What they're looking for is more of me as showing my versatility as a performer
Oh yeah.
to do characters, to do music cues.
To do dancing. I
How
mean, it's
many do you think characters you had that night?
6, maybe
Wow.
6.
And it
Yeah.
was just it was just like different versions of yourself?
No, like one was Drunk Jesus, like where it was Jesus as an entitled young drunk guy, where he's like,
Oh
"Do you know
my
my dad
god.
is?" Um, and it wasn't even necessarily like I wouldn't come up and do stand up as that. It would just be like I was out in the audience and somebody else came up and was doing like a guest set, and I'd be heckling them as Drunk Jesus. And then dude, your face right now, I mean, that was the whole audience.
I
Everybody's
mean,
like,
that
what
is
is this?
insane.
Yeah.
People were like, "Is he okay?" You know, like
Yeah.
I mean, before this, should we have him looked at? Because like that is just total insanity,
It is. It is.
man.
I did it as a senior project in high school, like a version of that for
Perfect.
like for theater kids, and it
Right.
was a much more like it wasn't stand up at all.
Right.
And it actually did pretty good. That's why I had any semblance of confidence in it at all, because I had done it before. But to bring that into a stand-up club was easily the dumbest thing I've, you know what I mean? Like some people are like, what's the dumbest thing I've ever done? Like, I don't know. And they would probably have to think about it for a little bit. For
Right.
me, it's a real easy answer. It was that show, and there's nothing even remotely close to it.
Wow. Man, that might be the story of all stories I've heard so far. I've heard some pretty good ones, but no one has told a story that they have put themselves into the lion's den like that. I mean,
Unnecessarily, like it's not even it wasn't even stand up.
right,
It was taking an L that was completely avoidable.
right. It's like you went out and played in the NFL with no pads on,
Right.
and you were like, I kind of know
And a
what football.
baseball glove. Like
Yeah,
I didn't
right,
even bring the sport to the fucking field.
right. Yeah. Oh my God. And they just tied the ball to your back. And they were
Right.
like, try to stay safe out there.
And
Man.
just got my collarbone shattered on the first play, and then still played the rest of the
Yeah.
game
Well,
and
keep him
just
in.
got hammered.
Keep him in there. Yeah. Oh my God, man. That is fantastic. I can't thank you enough for sharing that story. That is so funny. Um, whew,
It's tough.
where
It was tough, honestly. That was tough to relive. I probably
yeah.
haven't talked about that more than 5 times in my life since it's happened, because to bring all that back, I just have no idea where I was in my life where that would seem plausible or like I could pull it off. Like we hadn't rehearsed it one
Right.
time. He didn't even have the shit mixed and edited. I mean, it's just, I don't know who I was then, but thank God I'm not him now.
Yeah. Well, just like you said, it's a great story. You know, it's such a good story, and you might not have known it then, but my God, is it a good story now? Bill, please tell people where they can find you and find your stuff.
At on Twitter at DVE Bill Crawford. I'm on Instagram too, Crawford DVE. Those are the two main social media outlets that I frequent. So you can check me out there. And I'm on every Monday through Friday from 6 to 10 a.m. on the DVE Morning Show.
Man, thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.